Well, you've probably seen a lot of me over the past couple of days. I'm your buddy Jared Yamamoto, and welcome to Solo Moto, my video series that was born out of my radio show, The Nightcap with Jared Yamamoto. I appreciate all of you guys, whether you're watching this back later or whether you're watching this live. I see you guys on YouTube over here. I see you guys on Facebook over here, and I see you guys on Instagram over here as well, too, popping on live. I do this every Tuesday at 2, and I started this up, believe it or not, almost 5-6 months ago now. And people seem to enjoy what I bring up here. Essentially, it was born out of my radio show, and it is an extension of my radio show. So stuff that I didn't get a chance to get to, or things that are popping off today. For example, before I got behind this camera and microphone here, we just found out that both Putin and Donald Trump have agreed to a limited ceasefire in Ukraine against infrastructure targets and energy targets. So believe me, I'll get into the details of that. I've got all the sources right here, all the information there. We'll talk about that. I want to talk about some March Madness. I know I'm excited about it. I thought this year that I wasn't going to be as excited for March Madness as in prior years, but just this week is just great. I mean, the build up to it's awesome. Both my mom and my dad went to North Carolina, so I've always had a soft spot for the Tar Heels. But with my beloved alma mater, West Georgia, going D1 this year, it was really fun to see us contend for a possibility of making it to the big dance. Now, we didn't make the tournament, but it was cool just to see us finally playing at that level. And, anybody can get involved with it. After this weekend, the fun kind of dissipates because there's a game like every hour on the hour, it feels like, on so many different networks. And, this is the time when these small schools come out and they shine, and it's a lot of fun. So I'll get into some of my March Madness thoughts. I will not bore you with going through an entire bracket here because you can see myself, I still have not finished my bracket yet. And I know for those that have reached out about me doing a bracket with them, I promise you, I will do as many as I can with all of you fine folks out there. But what I want to start with is a big thank you. I know I opened up this solo moto talking about how you've probably seen a lot of me. We had some major storms come through the Atlanta area on Saturday into Sunday morning. I started my nightcap up early at 10 p.m. and ended up going on or staying on the air until 2 a.m. And some of the feedback from listeners was just magical, what people were saying. And let me just tell you this. If you were one of the ones listening during that time, it's an honor to serve you and to be there for you and to serve Metro Atlanta in any way that I can. People were like grateful that I was there. And I'm like, no. It's not about me being grateful. It's about being here to serve you. And that's just something that has been ingrained in me since I started at WSB Radio 12 years ago. So it was an honor to serve you. And I know it was scary. We did have an EF1 tornado over in Paulding County that touched the ground around 11:45 on Saturday night. And I'm glad that we had the entire WSB team in place to make sure to keep everybody informed. And I even had people texting me from outside the listening area. The thing about radio now is that we get so many people that are listening via our WSB radio app or online now. They get people that are listening all across the country now. And people were tuned in from other parts of the country listening to our storm coverage. And it was an honor to be a part of it and to, in some way, lead it too as well. Although I'm not the smart one, I assure you, we are one of the few radio stations in the country that has an actual meteorologist. And Christina Edwards deserves a ton of credit. She did an amazing job during that time. And just to see her work was really special that night. And for those that listen to the podcast version of my nightcap, I know this week it's a little bit different just because it's a lot of breaking weather coverage. But I covered a lot of things. And I'm going to try my best today to not talk about some of the stuff that's been bothering me because I'm agitated with the city of Atlanta. And I'm going to try my best to hold off on my agitation towards the city of Atlanta. So I'll start off with something that I watched last night. I'm a big movie guy. I think that I analyze movies quite well. And it's become something as I've gotten older that I've really started to enjoy, especially when the Oscars was on a couple of weeks ago. I like to go back and watch some of the selections that they end up putting on there. I watched several of the movies going into the Oscars. And even though I don't agree with the award process they do. A lot of it is a bit of a popularity contest, but what award system isn't a popularity contest? And Hollywood has got its own problems. Don't get me wrong. Like I don't believe me. Seeing the glitterati and the beautiful people decide and give themselves awards is not something that I'm very fond of. But I will say this, as somebody that appreciates art, I can tell you when something is art and when something is not art. And Anora won 5 Oscars this past year. And so I'm curious. I'm like, okay, all right, I've got to watch it. It was a low budget film. I want to say it was $4 or $8 million to make Anora. And I watched it with my lovely wife, who is actually watching on Instagram right now. I appreciate you, darling, watching on Instagram now. And for all those that are watching on Instagram, welcome on Instagram, welcome on YouTube, and welcome on Facebook. I do this every Tuesday at 2, Solo Moto. You can watch it live, or of course, if you're watching it back later, there's no problem with that either. But while watching Anora last night, it was like 3 movies in one. And so you could tell the director was inspired by Quentin Tarantino. Quentin Tarantino is more direct about when things are about to change in his films. He likes to put like chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. And the director for Anora obviously was inspired a lot by Quentin Tarantino in terms of the transitions between scenes. But let me just tell you this. As somebody that, first off, I'll give a review on it. I thought the movie was enjoyable. It's a bit difficult at the end to process the ending, but I understood the ending. My wife definitely got the end of it. And I would say if you have young children, do not watch this movie in front of young children. Do not watch this movie with your parents. And perhaps even with a group of friends, make sure that you're very comfortable with these friends while watching this. I'm no prude. I saw the movie with that won so many awards last year, Poor Things, with Emma Stone, and it had a ton of sex scenes in it, and so did Anora. So Anora, if you don't know the concept of the movie, it's about the son of a Russian oligarch that ends up falling in love with a stripper, essentially, or an adult worker in the New York area. And it's interesting because you go through the ups and downs of that kind of relationship. You see the difference in income levels and how people grow, and the stark difference between the two. A true Lady and the Tramp kind of story there that has its twists and turns, and I found to be highly enjoyable. But there's something about the Oscars voting that's going on, especially over the past 2 years, with Poor Things doing so well last year and with Anora doing so well this year. They are obsessed with sex scenes because this film, though, again, working as a stripper or an adult worker, I guess not a sex worker, but an adult worker, in that case there, they showed a lot of sex scenes in the film, which for me, again, I understand that some of it was necessary. Some of it is to help paint the picture for you to understand what her life was like, what Anora's life is like. However, after the 3rd or the 4th one, you get it as the viewer. You understand. You're like, okay, I know this is going on. And again, I'm not a prude. I'm not here to say that the director was wrong in this, but all you had to do after the 3rd or 4th one is potentially walk into a room, show them taking their clothes off, and boom, it's good. You get the gist of what's going on and what's going on in her life. But this director loved shooting the action, loved trying to make sure that you understood that these people are having sex in this scene. And in a way, it reminded me of Poor Things, which I liked Poor Things a lot last year. That had Emma Stone in it, and Emma Stone did a great job of it's basically like a female adaptation of Frankenstein. I know it's a little more complicated than that, but if you're watching it for the first time, it can be a bit difficult to grasp. And I liked Poor Things a lot. And I felt like the difference between Poor Things and Anora was that every sex scene in that movie was necessary to help you understand the growth of this young girl who was in an older girl's body compared to Anora, where you get it. She's a stripper. This is what her profession is, and this is what she does. So after again, the 3rd or the 4th time that she's having sex, you're like, all right, okay, we got it. So I would say again, my PSA to anybody watching this movie, because it is now available on Hulu. I waited for it. I almost went and saw it in 35 millimeter at the Terra Theater just because of how many awards won. I'm like, I've got to make sure I give that film the absolute right experience. And I'm glad that I ended up watching it at home. I have a great TV to watch it, and it is now on Hulu. And I enjoyed it. Again, enjoyed it highly. Not my favorite movie of all time, but certainly enjoyable. All right, now let's get into some of the important stuff here. March Madness, and of course, everybody's starting to put the warnings out there. Everybody's got a bracket out there, and our friends over at CNN here have already got the warnings out there for you. The gambling is going to be an issue here, and they'll also tell you the probability of you actually locking in the perfect bracket. Here you go.
It's something that's never been done, according to the NCAA, picking a perfect bracket. Think you can bust that statistic this year? The odds of picking all 64 games correctly is 1 in, yeah, that's a lot of numbers. 9.2 quintillion. But if you know a little bit about basketball, your odds are better. 1 in 120.2 billion, according to the NCAA. Despite those despicable odds, the NCAA says 60 to 100 million brackets are filled out every year, and typically they're free, so anyone can do it, making it even more fun to participate.
It's the underdogs who will win the games. It's the unknown. It's the pace of the games. It's a action-packed 3 weeks.
Lori Kalani with sports betting website DraftKings says they see a surge in business during March Madness.
It's an extremely busy time of year.
The American Gaming Association estimates Americans will legally wager $3.1 billion on the men's and women's college basketball tournaments this year. That's up from $2.7 billion last year. Sports betting is now legal in 39 states, and it's become a multi-billion-dollar industry and continues to grow.
Certainly the smartphones have made everything more accessible, but with technology have come great opportunities to really play responsibly.
Kalani says DraftKings has tools to help players set limits and budgets on their bets. March is also National Problem Gambling Awareness Month, a reminder to gamble responsibly. For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
Much appreciated there, Jen Sullivan, for that report there. I didn't realize that March was Gambling Awareness Month. Of course, right in the middle of March Madness, they have to put that out there. I went off on my radio show 2 weeks ago talking about gambling. 39 states now have it legalized. Georgia is not one of them. We're one of the 11 left. And I would take up my entire solo moto talking about it. So if you missed my nightcap from a couple weeks ago, you can grab it as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts. I'm personally a Spotify guy, but WSBRadio.com, the WSB Radio app, any of your favorite podcast providers, and you can hear me go off on the Georgia legislature because the idea of it being Gambling Awareness Month. People can gamble. The 99% of people are responsible gamblers. But look, I'm getting into it, and I've got to stop here. All right, so the big breaking news here. I've got this from the AP. After an hours-long phone call, Russian President Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump have emerged with an agreement to avoid bombing critical energy infrastructure in Ukraine for 30 days and to boost their country's ties. Look, I know that some people are going to look at this and say it's kind of a half deal, right? It's not exactly what we wanted because a lot of people wanted a full ceasefire. But the direction that how I feel about this is it's good that both us and Russia are talking. Before, the previous administration just had this idea where we're just not going to talk to the Russians anymore. And it's important to understand that the country that has the most nuclear weapons in the world is Russia, followed by us. And it's difficult to see Ukraine winning that war. And I'm glad that conversations are happening. Now, there are going to be concessions that are going to be made. And I hope that on our part that we don't just decide to make a deal to make a deal. That's the problem that I have with all this, because I understand that for Trump, he wants a big campaign win, and that can consume presidents. That can really, really push them to the limit. And hopefully he doesn't give up too much to just get a quote campaign win. But I am encouraged to see both sides talking again. It looks like they talked for over 90 minutes. Who knows what else they talked about there. I know that Putin, after watching part of the Tucker Carlson interview, That guy can talk for a while, and so can Trump. So encouraged that they're having conversation, but overall, though, again, just it sounds like key infrastructure and energy targets are the only things that are not going to be hit as of right now. I appreciate you guys tuning in here to Solo Moto. I try to keep these to 15 minutes every single week. Be sure to follow me on my various socials. I'm on X, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, you name it, at Jared Yamamoto. I do appreciate all of you guys jumping in the chat. I never acknowledge you guys in the chat because I run out of time. Maybe I'll just extend these to 20 minutes starting in the future. Maybe I'll keep going longer and longer here. I did not get the chance to bring up that Wayfair is coming to Atlanta. They're going to have their own storefront in Atlanta. I know that's got people super excited here in the Atlanta area to have a Wayfair standalone store, especially in a place that's been vacant for a while. Perhaps I'll get to that on my nightcap this week. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Be sure to listen to the Von Hessler Doctrine and my nightcap. And again, for all those kind words during my special storm coverage on WSB, where I was hosting, thank you for those kind words. Seriously, it was an honor to serve and be there for Metro Atlanta. Then you guys have a blessed rest of your week, and good luck with those brackets. Bracketology starts tonight.